Hey everybody, it's John over at GFA, Georgia Fencing Academy, and today we're going to talk about attacks on the blade, attack affair. The three attacks on the blade that we focus on here are beat, press, and opposition. We've talked about opposition before with simple direct and indirect attacks. Beat on the blade and pressure on the blade are more assertive actions in order to displace your opponent's point away from intended target area, but it can also be utilized as preparation, in order to provoke a response from your opponent and to make it easier to hit them. So the three attacks on the blade: beat, press, and opposition. Beat is basically just an assertive action on your opponent's blade. Offensive action, displacing the point by hitting middle on middle. Press also is pressure middle on middle, pushing your opponent's blade out of the way, and it's the precursor for the next one, which is opposition. Opposition is maintaining that pressure on the blade and pushing your opponent's point out of the way. There are several different ways that you can do these attacks on the blade. One of them is just direct, indirect, or as we'll demonstrate a little bit later on, with change beats or change presses. All right, so the first element, or the first preparatory action, is going to be a beat. Very simply, Houston is going to hit my blade middle on middle and displace the point, and then finish with a simple direct attack. Okay, again. So you'll notice, he beat my blade middle on middle, okay? Not on the strong or the weak of the blade. On guard for me. So if he beats my blade, let's say I beat his blade on the strong, I'm not gonna miss. I'm not gonna displace that point. If I beat it on the weak, I'm sure I could displace the point, but then all of a sudden he's going to have time to reacquire the target as I go in for the attack, and he's going to hit me. Now, another way that we can beat the blade, or a response that he can give me if I beat the blade, right, is to beat back. If he beats back, and I know he's going to beat back because I'm utilizing this as preparation to draw a response, he responds by beating back, then I can, on guard, I can beat the blade, goes to beat back, I can disengage and then go to hit. So, Houston will beat my blade, I will go to beat back, he disengages and then continues. And what he's going to do is when he goes to beat the blade, he's going to start his extension of the arm. Continuous threat, continuous extension of the arm. Don't just disengage the blade back here, right? I mean, you still have to traverse a lot of distance. So, ready? Engage here, and let's randomize it a little bit. He beats, he's extending, he goes to hit. He beats, he's extending, he goes to hit. He beats, I beat back, disengage. The next thing we'll look at are change beats. Basically, I'm changing the line that I'm beating in. This can be effective in distracting your opponent, deceiving your opponent, as well as point disruption. So here we get Houston on guard. What's going to happen is that he's going to extend the arm, he's going to disengage the blade, beat the blade, and then hit. And you'll notice that he's not using the wrist so much. It's not a big wind up, right? It is an extension of the arm. It's an extension of the arm. He is disengaging small circular motion, small disengage with the fingers, and then whipping the point over or blade over to hit the opponent. And this is also a continuous motion. Go ahead. Boom. Displace the point. Good. Again. Right. So here, how do we, or what can we do in order to practice this and make it more effective? This is an exercise that Michael Marks with Marks Academy taught me on how to build up dexterity and muscle strength in the hand. It's going to be, on guard, a continuous motion, continuous extension of the arm where we do a change beat and then go to hit the opponent. The next one would be 2 beats with a continuous extension of the arm. 1, 2, and then go to hit the opponent. Next would be 1, 2, 3, and then go to hit the opponent. We're trying to keep the disengages small, and we're trying to minimize, on guard, the friction that we would hear on the blade. You see a lot of times when people go to beat the blade, you can hear this. You're staying on the weapon too long, right? The whole point is to disrupt the point, get the point out of the way, hit your opponent, call it a day. So let's see your extension of the arm, change beat, direct, go. Now let's see 2 beats. Ready? 1, 2, cool. Hear that sliding on the weapon. Get off the blade quicker. Ready? Go. Or more quickly. Ready? 3. Good. Now 4. Yes, yes. Pop. Now, let's say Houston does a change beat. I go to beat back. Now he's going to do perform the change beat and then disengage, all with continuous extension of the arm. And it's getting more complicated at this point. Lots of blade work. So what he's going to have to do is temper the extension of the arm in order to determine what action he needs to take. On guard for me. So here is simple change beat direct, right? Change beat direct. Yeah, he's extending the arm. It is a continuous extension, but it's also a little bit slower, so he's making sure that he's making the right decision. So here we have the change beat. He extends and then accelerates near the end of the extension. Let's say I go to beat back. Boom. He goes to hit me with the disengage. Ready? Change beat. Disengage. Continuous extension. Right. Now, does he care if I hit his weapon? No, because it's not a right-away weapon. Just as long as my response isn't displacing his point from the target area, he could just blast through and hit me. The next action we're going to look at is press on the blade. Basically, you are pushing middle on middle on your opponent's weapon to push the weapon out of the way, and like I said, that's the precursor for opposition. If you maintain pressure on the blade and extend your arm, that's you're attacking the blade with opposition. So here, on guard, what you're going to do is Houston is going to press to push my weapon out of the way and then extend his arm to hit me. So a little bit more, a little more displacement. Okay, boom. Okay, it's a sharper action. I know he's slowing it down for the video, but basically what we would be looking at would be a push like this and then going in to hit. It's not a very common action, but it's just a nice tool to have in your toolbox. Ready? So press the blade. Good. Press the blade. Boom. Now, let's say that he presses the blade and I press back. At this point, he's going to disengage. Press the blade, I press back, he disengages and goes to hit. This is really effective against people who like to bind your blade. You press, they push back, and all of a sudden you get into an arm wrestling match. You don't have to. All you have to do is once they put pressure on your blade, then fall off the weapon and go to hit. On guard. So let's say that he presses my blade, I press back really hard, right, and he falls off the weapon. No, let's do it again. I'm going to press back hard, right, here, no, not yet. We're pushing, we're opposing right here, right? All of a sudden he falls off the weapon, my point flies all the way over here. Now let's look at change press. Just like the change beat, what we're doing is changing the line that we're pressing in. Again, it's complicated because there is more movement, and we do have to maintain a continuous extension of the arm. So, on guard. So Houston goes to change press, I press back, disengage, goes to hit. That's indirect. If we were doing direct, he would change press, push my weapon out of the way, and then go to hit. So first, direct, change press, push, good. Again, push, good. Now, change, press, disengage, change, press, disengage, good. Again, change, press, disengage. Now you see as the actions become more complex, how that contributes to the deception and distraction factor. He's moving my weapon out of the way. I don't have control over what line I think he's going to attack me in, and I don't have any control over where my point is. Now lastly is opposition. We covered this in simple direct and indirect attacks. Let's emphasize now the evolution of pressure into opposition. Ready, Houston? So basically a review of simple direct and indirect attacks. We have the extension of the arm. I come forward like I'm walking into his critical distance. He takes my weapon and moves it out of the way. I like the fact that he's using 5 instead of 4. He's got more range of motion, and it's not as awkward as taking the blade in 4. Cover? So instead of doing this, he's rolling over, pronating the hand into this position with more range of motion on the wrist here. Now, indirect attack. Ready? Start your extension. Boom. Continuous extension of the arm. Disengage with the extension of the arm. Let's randomize it a little bit. Boom. Okay. Boom. You can go down into the low line, right? Or you can go into a high line target. Continuous extension of the arm and opposing the blade. So that's a general overview of attacks on the blade: beat, press, and opposition. I think they're really effective preparation. Yes, you do displace the point away from an intended target area. I prefer absence of blade, and I teach that predominantly because instead of teaching my student to physically go out and displace their opponent's weapon, I'd rather use a series of footwork and absence de fer or absence of blade preparations in order to make them move their opponent's weapon out of the way. I think it's contributing to controlling the tempo of the bout. Hopefully you found this helpful, and we'll see you later.